The Wanderer, an Anglo-Saxon Elegiac, or wisdom poetry of Old English. Summary, analysis. Hello and welcome to the discourse. The Wanderer is one of the few surviving Anglo-Saxon poems written in Old English that was written by an anonymous author about whom nothing substantial is known. The poem is an elegy in which a soldier mourns the loss of his chief, the Lord, and his nation. The poem offers details on the Norman Conquest and how the Normans had ravaged the land of the Anglo-Saxons and captured it. The poem was entered in the Exter Book, also known as Codex Exoniensis. While the Exter Book was written in the 10th century, it is believed that the poem The Wanderer itself is much older than the book. It is believed that The Wanderer first appeared as a piece of oral poetry during the 5th and 6th century, a time when the Germanic Pagan culture of Anglo-Saxon England was undergoing a conversion to Christianity. Being an elegiac, the poem's theme is loss and sorrow with the spiritual seeking of solace. The narrator, the wanderer, vividly describes his loneliness and yearning for the bright days past, and concludes with an admonition to put faith in God, in whom all stability dwells. It is believed that this admonition at the end of the poem is a later addition as an effort to convert this otherwise secular, irreligious or heathen poem into Christian poem. Structure of the Wanderer. The original poem is written in Old English. It is a long poem with 153 alliterative lines. However, the translated poem, The Wanderer, is reduced to 116 lines. Some other translations have 115 or 117 lines. Like all other Anglo-Saxon poems, all lines of The Wanderer are alliterative, which means that the rhythm of the poem is based on the repetition of the consonant sound at the beginning of the words. The meter of the poem is of 4 stress lines divided between the second and third stresses by a caesura. Each caesura is indicated in the manuscript by a subtle increase in character spacing and with full stops, but modern print editions render them in a more obvious fashion. The poem fluctuates between personal experience and general advice, hence, there could be more than one narrator. The first 7 lines are narrated by the wanderer who introduces himself. Then begins a monologue by a wise man from line 9, which continues till line 91. From line 92, the new monologue begins, which is narrated by the wanderer himself, who has now become the wise man. The anonymous poet of the Wanderer uses alliteration, enjambment, and caesura in the poem. Summary of the Wanderer, lines 1 to 9. Often the solitary one experiences mercy for himself. The mercy of the miserer, although he, troubled in spirit, over the ocean must long, still with his hands the rime-cold sea, travel the paths of exile, fate is inexorable. So sat the wanderer, mindful of hardships, of cruel deadly combats, the fall of dear kinsmen. Often alone, each morning I must bewail my sorrow, there is now none living. In the first 5 lines, the speaker talks about how the lone dweller, referring to the wanderer, was solitarily alone, receiving limited love and God's grace. He suffers for a long time in exile, fate never showing kindness to him. The speaker uses measurer to refer to God, suggesting the power that will ultimately judge the acts or deeds of the wanderer, and the narrator, who too is a lonely dweller like the wanderer, and of everybody else. The other 4 lines are spoken by the wanderer himself. The wanderer tells his tale of woe, how his clan and his chieftain had been killed. There was no one left for him to share his sorrows with. The measurer could also be the lord of the lone dweller for whom he works and submits his allegiance. Lines 10 to 23. To whom I dare tell clearly my inmost thoughts, I know indeed that it is noble custom in a man to bind fast his thoughts with restraint, hold his treasure chest, think what he will. The man weary in spirit cannot withstand fate, nor may the troubled mind offer help. Therefore, those eager for praise often bind a sad mind in their breast coffer with restraint. So I, miserably sad, separated from homeland, far from my noble kin, had to bind my thoughts with fetters, since that long ago the darkness of the earth covered my gold friend, and I, abject, proceeded thence, winter sad over the binding of the waves. The lone dweller states how a man who is courageous locks his sorrow in his heart and does not allow sorrowful thoughts to enter his mind. The wanderer, however, was a weak man, and hence he could neither control fate nor could he not harbor bitter feelings for his loss. The wanderer offers this speech while thinking about the hardships, specifically the slaughter of his relatives. All his relatives have been killed in battle, and he is on the run from his enemies, and thus there is nobody to talk to. The wanderer says that a man should control his sad thoughts and keep them in his treasure chest. These thoughts are priceless and precious, to be guarded carefully and only revealed to those you trust. However, the wanderer is lonely, there is no one to whom he may share his sorrow. Even his gold friend or the chieftain or the lord is dead, and thus the Anglo-Saxon warrior had no source of protection or income. Lines 24 to 33 said, I sought the hall of a giver of treasure, where I might find far or near one who in the mead hall might know about my people, or might wish to comfort me friendless. Entertained with delights, he knows who experiences it, how cruel care is as a companion to him who has few beloved protectors. The path of exile awaits him, not twisted gold, frozen feelings, not earth's glory. He remembers retainers and the receiving of treasures. Since the gold friend of the wanderer is no more, he seeks a new lord to get a job and protection. He describes how he sought out a giver of treasure or a new lord everywhere he went. He thought there might be someone who might wish to comfort him and remedy his friendlessness. The wanderer is looking for a new lord who knows about his people, that he is looking for a lord from his own kinship group. He knows that if he can't find a new situation for himself, he is going to end up on a path of exile where there is no twisted gold but frozen feelings and no glory. Lines 34 to 43. How in youth his gold friend accustomed him to the feast, but all pleasure has failed. Indeed, he knows who must for a long time do without the counsels of his beloved Lord, when sorrow and sleep together often bind the wretched solitary man. He thinks in his heart that he embraces and kisses his Lord and lays hands and head on his knee, just as he once at times in former days enjoyed the gift giving. In these lines, the wanderer remembers how he enjoyed the favors of his previous Lord in the past, and how happy and content he was with him. But with his death, there is no pleasure for him left any more. He now bemoans and wishes to bow his head again for his old Lord, but he is no more. The wanderer contrasts the life he used to live with what he is experiencing now. He once woke to happiness and contentment, but now he is a wretched solitary man. He would like to return to the life he had and dreams of what it would be like. Lines 44 to 53. Then the friendless man awakes again, sees before him the dusky waves, the seabirds bathing, spreading their wings, frost and snowfall mingled with hail. Then are his heart's wounds the heavier because of that, sore with the longing for a loved one, sorrow is renewed. When the memory of kinsmen passes through his mind, he greets with signs of joy, eagerly surveys his companions, warriors, they swim away again. The spirit of the floating ones never brings their many. In these lines, the narrator describes the friendless man as he wakes up from his dreams, in which he is enjoying the cozy feeling of being close to his old Lord. Unfortunately, he is all alone in the real world. He is still on the sea with the dusky waves in front of him. The poet offered deeper imagery of the nature and surroundings of the lone dweller in these lines. The seabirds have the freedom to fly away that the wanderer does not. The wanderer is constantly reminded of his situation as soon as he starts to take comfort in what is around him. The poet brings the heathen idea of the external soul. The seabirds are interchangeable with the wanderer's fallen comrades. Lines 54 to 68. Familiar utterances, care is renewed for the one who must very often send his weary spirit over the binding of the waves. Therefore, I cannot think why throughout the world my mind should not grow dark when I contemplate all the life of men, how they suddenly left the hall floor. Brave young retainers, so this middle earth fails and falls each day. Therefore, a man may not become wise before he owns a share of winters in the kingdom of this world. A wise man must be patient, nor must he ever too hot-tempered, nor too hasty of speech, nor too weak in battles, nor too headless, nor too fearful, nor too cheerful, nor too greedy for wealth, nor ever too eager for boasting before he knows for certain. The narrator says that though the wanderer feels as if he witnessed his lost kinsman visiting him in the form of seabirds and other creatures, it did not bring him the joy that he would have liked. They bring no relief to his exile. Memories and dreams of better times bring no relief for the exile. Instead, they make things worse. The narrator says that no one on the earth has suffered the same loss and sorrow of losing close ones as the wanderer does. But this sorrow and loss doesn't make anyone wise. The speaker further says that it is also true that no one can become wise before he suffers a share of winters or loss, death and sorrow in the kingdom of this world. However, only such a man becomes wise and is patient and not too hot-tempered. He should not be too quick-tongued, meaning that he thinks before he speaks. The important traits of a warrior overlap somewhat with those of a wise man. A warrior needs to be strong, of course, but he must also avoid foolhardiness, a similar trait to hot-heartedness. The wise man must not be fearful nor too cheerful. He must not be greedy for wealth or praise. He must not be too quick-tongued. He must not speak or boast too eagerly. Lines 69 to 88. A man must wait when he speaks a boast until stout-hearted he knows for certain. Whither the thought of the heart may wish to turn, the prudent man must realize how ghastly it will be when all the wealth of this world stands waste. As now variously throughout this middle earth, walls stand beaten by the wind, covered with rime, snow covered the dwellings. The wine halls go to ruin, the rulers lie deprived of joy, the host has all perished, proud by the wall, some war took, carried on the way forth, one a bird carried off over the high sea, one the grey wolf shared with death, one a sad-faced nobleman buried in an earth pit. So the creator of man laid waste this region until the ancient world of giants, lacking the noises of the citizens, stood idle. He who deeply contemplates this walled steed and this dark life with wise thought. In these lines, the narrator continues to explain how a wise man should be. The speaker expresses the wisdom that the wanderers and elderly wise men often possess. He says that men have to be patient and thoughtful, not too quick to speak or too eager to boast over one's accomplishments. The wanderer also learns that existence is not permanent. Life, human creation, and memories collapse. The narrator explains that this is how the Creator has made the world. The old buildings that the wanderer loved so much and bemoans now were meant to fall. They were the work of old giants. Even great gigantic creations still eventually fail. The narrator says that a wise man contemplated this dark life with a deeper consciousness. Lines 89 to 93. Old in spirit often remembers long ago a multitude of battles and speaks these words: where is the horse? Where is the young warrior? Where is the giver of treasure? Where are the seats of the banquets? Where are the joys in the hall? Alas, the bright cup! Alas, the mailed warrior! These lines suggest a transition in the wanderer. He is no longer a sad man, but is gradually becoming a wise man. He describes what he has learned from his various contemplations. His words are emotional and repetitive as he wonders over the loss of things that have disappeared over time. The speaker is concentrated on the things one might see in a great hall, such as that of his deceased lord. Lines 94 to 108. Alas, the glory of the prince, how the time has gone, vanished under night's helm as if it never were. Now in place of a beloved host stands a wall wondrously high, decorated with the likenesses of serpents. The powers of spears took the nobleman, weapons greedy for slaughter fate the renowned, and storms beat against these rocky slopes. Falling snowstorm binds the earth. The noise of winter, then the dark comes. The shadow of night grows dark, sends from the north a rough shower of hail in enmity to the warriors. All the kingdom of earth is full of trouble. The operation of the fates changes the world under the heavens. Here wealth is transitory, here friend is transitory, here man is transitory, here woman is transitory. Unlike the previous time, the wanderer does not express his sadness for his exile or loneliness. He remembers the past again and draws attention to the things that were surrounding a great hall with a lord at its center have all passed away. There are no bright cups or feast seats. The prince is no more, nor his lord. The wall against which soldiers have fallen is wondrously high and is covered in depictions of serpents. The area has been destroyed and plundered, as have the warriors from their lives. The attackers were hungry for slaughter, and their fate was solidified. The wanderer describes the wall as a rocky slope and suggests that the wall, in fact, is a part of nature, a part of humankind's creation. He expresses the effect of harsh winds on this wall. Darkness falls, and the kingdom of earth is full of trouble. The wanderer says that what happens is fated, and no man or woman is ever important here. They are all transitory, momentary, all fated to vanish. People struggle for wealth, fame, and friends, but all is transitory. Lines 109 to 116. This whole foundation of earth becomes empty. So spoke the wise in spirit, sat by himself in private meditation. He who is good keeps his place, nor shall the man ever manifest the anger of his breast too quickly, unless he, the man, should know beforehand how to accomplish the remedy with courage. It will be well for him who seeks grace, comfort from the Father in the heavens, where fastness stands for us all. In these closing lines, the wanderer expresses his wisdom that he gained through all his turmoils and suffering during his exile. The wise man sits apart from others. Even in company, he is isolated as he was in exile. Perhaps his separateness derives from his experience of exile, which gives him knowledge that only other exiles share. This knowledge might be the secret contemplation. He says that life is complicated, hard, and ultimately depressing and lonely. Fate, he decides, governs everything and everyone. The wanderer then says that the only solution for the sadness, sorrow, and desolation, the only balm against the pain of inevitability of death, is the memory of God. So this is it for today. We will continue to discuss the history of English literature. Please stay connected with the discourse. Thanks and regards.